How do I know we're stuck in the middle of a health crisis and everyday Americans are the sickest they've ever been? Because recently, the American College of Cardiology released this shocking statistic. 93.2% of all American adults are sick. And then there are these scary statistics. 66% of Americans are overweight or obese. Over 50% of Americans are diabetic. 47% have high blood pressure. More than 50% of men have erectile dysfunction. And for the first time in history, statistically, children will not live longer than their parents. But here's the thing, I don't need statistics to tell me any of this because as a doctor on the front line, I saw the evidence of it every single day. Every day in the hospital, I saw the same patients coming through the doors, and each time they came in, they were sicker and sicker and sicker. I became so frustrated that I couldn't do more for these patients who deserved better from the healthcare system, a system that was supposed to be making them healthy. And then one day, an unexpected incident pushed me over the edge. Now, I need to share an insider secret with you. Every doctor has at least one patient who touches them so profoundly that they haunt us for the rest of our lives. For me, that patient was Ralph. Ralph was 2 years younger than me, but looked at least 10 years older. He was an honest, hardworking man who had a loving family. Ralph was morbidly obese and was struggling to keep up with life. The sad part was that I had seen him come into the hospital many, many times. Unfortunately, each time he came in, his condition was worse and he often went home with another diagnosis or more medications to add to the ever-growing list. I remember vividly the time he came in when his blood sugar levels were an absolute mess. But this time, there was a critical difference. This time, he also had a raging infection in his leg. There was only one option, which was to control his sugars and his infection. Then, when he was well enough, they would amputate his leg. My heart broke for Ralph. His condition should have never gotten this bad. But the health system had massively let him down. The drugs that were supposed to help him only maintained or barely managed his illness. They couldn't and wouldn't ever correct any of it. Slowly but surely, Ralph's future with his family was being stolen from him. Each hospital visit and each new condition he was diagnosed with robbed him of valuable time with his loved ones, in the present moment and the future. During this hospital stay, the surgeon told Ralph, "I'm sorry, there's nothing more we can do for you." As he faced the amputation of his leg, Ralph was filled with fear and doubts. He wasn't sure he'd get to see his children get married or even meet his future grandchildren. He felt defeated by his diagnosis. He told me that being sick was a full-time job and it consumed everything he did and everything he didn't do. The once active dad didn't have the energy to play with his kids anymore. The once passionate husband avoided intimacy with his wife because of his size and his performance problems. The once proud and strong man was now just a mere shell of his former self. Ralph and his family deserved better. Way better. Seeing what happened to Ralph made me determined to help people at the better end of the healthcare spectrum and make a real difference in their lives. I went home after my shift and told my wife about what had happened to Ralph. I was almost in tears as I told her how the medical system had let this good man down. She looked at me and reminded me of how the system had also let me down too. I looked at her puzzled and she reminded me of what happened to me during medical school. Oh wow, I'd forgotten that, I thought. There I was, learning how to make people healthy, yet I was the unhealthiest I'd ever been. Before I started medical school, I was an elite rock climber and a professional mountain guide living in the Rocky Mountains. I was a fit, strong, and skinny young man in the prime of my life. In fact, when I left for med school, I was 155 pounds of pure lean muscle. But after 4 super stressful years in med school, my weight shot up to an unhealthy 190 pounds. So, to fix the problem, I tried diets and calorie restrictions, and I even starved myself. But all I lost was 10 pounds, and my hope of ever being healthy again. Before I knew it, I had settled into that idea that 175 to 180 pounds was my new abnormal weight. Then I started 5 grueling years of residency, and things got so much worse. Even though I was riding my bike, working out, and eating what I was told was healthy food, my weight kept increasing. And let me tell you, it wasn't muscle. My horrible health took a severe toll on me. I had such severe brain fog that I couldn't remember patients' names, and I constantly misplaced my keys or my wallet. It felt like my head was in the clouds all the time. And here's the kicker. No matter how much I followed the advice that I learned in medical school, you know, the advice we're supposed to give to patients, it didn't work. Nothing worked. But I just knew I couldn't be that fat and unhealthy doctor who gave patients lectures about how to be healthy. That's just not how I roll. And the more I looked into the pill for every ill toolbox that I'd been given in medical school, I realized we were just putting band-aids on hemorrhaging severed limbs to make ourselves look and feel better. But the reality was we weren't fixing a damn thing. All we were doing was kicking the can down the road to deal with later. The more I researched, the more I saw the source of my problem and my patients' problems. And shockingly, they were the same. I spent tens of thousands of dollars and literally hundreds of hours combing through studies, books, and listening to lectures and podcasts. I took courses from respected leaders in the fields of nutrition, endocrinology, energy production, and immunology. And I finally discovered a major cause of the majority of chronic diseases and the poor quality of health 93.2% of Americans are suffering from today. But more about that in just a minute, because I really need to introduce myself so you know who I am and why what I have to share with you is so important. My name is Dr. Robert Floyd. I am a highly sought after board-certified family medicine physician, and I offer a uniquely holistic blend of traditional, integrative, and functional medicine. I believe in the power of an integrative approach to healing, and I've helped thousands of patients that the medical industry had given up on. I've helped them all improve their health and even experience relief or remission from so-called untreatable chronic conditions. I've created a new, simple way to get your health back, even if the medical system says there's nothing more they can do for you. I don't think the life sentences handed out to innocent, trusting patients are fair or even accurate. Think about it. If you're diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, what does the medical system do for you? They manage it. They put you on a diabetic diet, get you to start testing, and manage your blood sugars, and you may even be given a drug to manage your levels. But here's a question we all need to ask. When do they actually try to treat it? You know, as in treat it so you don't have it anymore. Or are you just expected to have it for the rest of your life? That's not a diagnosis, that's a life sentence. The same happens with high blood pressure, autoimmune disease, high cholesterol, and every other chronic disease or disorder out there. The usual treatment is a cycle of some kind of healthy diet, drugs, and then more diagnoses. Look, we all know that often, once you take a drug for one condition, it can cause a tsunami of other side effects and conditions, which results in more diagnosis and, of course, the need to take more medications. So again, where is the attempt to treat you? The answer is, they don't. We live in a reactive medical system where options like surgery and drugs are used to suppress symptoms instead of addressing the primary factors. This means that people with chronic diseases or disorders only get worse over time, despite all the visits to their doctor. That's why it's time for a radical solution, to start focusing on genuinely treating and preventing chronic conditions instead of just managing them. We need to begin looking at our patients holistically, not just from the perspective of their symptoms and lab tests, but also from their lifestyle habits and environment. So that's exactly what I've done. My approach goes far beyond traditional medicine, looking at the body as a whole and using a combination of traditional, integrative, and functional medicine and lifestyle changes to restore your good health. And because I know that good health begins with healthy cells and a healthy gut, I have developed straightforward, simple solutions that support healthy cells and a healthy gut to improve your overall health. I mean, it makes sense to approach health from the cellular level, doesn't it? After all, our cells are the building blocks of our body. If our cells are unhealthy, they build an unhealthy body plagued with disease. But when our cells are healthy, they build a healthy, resilient, and strong body. I'm tired of seeing good people like Ralph being let down by a medical system that is focused on sickness instead of health. That's why I'm bucking the system and revealing everything I know about how you can reclaim your health and live a healthier, happier, and more vibrant life. Because isn't that what it's all about? And isn't that what we all want? The current medical model may help people to live longer, but what quality of life do you have if you're sick and unhealthy for your so-called golden years? Wouldn't it be better if you could live longer and be healthy so that instead of suffering through the rest of your life, you could actually enjoy every single moment? The problem with health in our Western world is we don't think about it until we don't have it. This is the exact opposite of the philosophy of Eastern medicine, where health practitioners are focused on health and the whole person. You may find it interesting to know that if their patients get sick, people look poorly on the practitioner. Why? Because they've failed their patients, which is in stark contrast to the Western sick care cycle model that we have here. Because when patients get sick, it means the medical ecosystem thrives. Meanwhile, the patient gets sicker and sicker and sicker. We all know that there is big money in sickness and not as much in health, which is why we are kept in a never-ending cycle of sickness and despair. But I'm happy to say it doesn't have to be that way. You can break free from the sick care cycle at the place where it all begins. And that freedom begins with what we put into our mouths and our bodies. Our bodies and cells are being fed a diet of lies and nutritionally empty, ultra-processed, toxic food. The standard American diet has lowered the standard of our health more than anything else in the history of mankind. Now, whether you believe in creation or evolution, the way we work as humans is, each generation is supposed to be fitter, faster, and stronger than the previous one. But around 50 years ago, everything changed. The standard American diet was published, along with a misleading food pyramid, and it turned the way we eat upside down. Traditional healthy foods like meat and vegetables became the enemy, and foods like cereals and grains that inflamed our delicate bodies and cells became the heroes of the new healthy way to eat. But what people don't realize is that positions on the healthy eating pyramid could be bought, and they were. The grain growers paid a ton of money for their hero status, even though they aren't specifically very healthy for us. Now, if you're finding this a little challenging to believe, I used to as well. Think about this though. Why does it seem that so many people are gluten intolerant? I mean, there has always been celiac disease, but that was such a small percentage of the population. But so many modern day Americans are having problems processing and digesting gluten. So why did gluten become such a problem around 50 years ago? Well, part of the reason is that the old-fashioned process of making bread used yeast that broke down the gluten during the rising process. But processed bread skips this part and adds yeast at the end of the process to make things faster and more convenient for the companies. However, the main reason is that gluten is intentionally added to food because it increases our appetite and because it's cheap. Even when you try to avoid gluten, unfortunately, in many products, it's hidden or renamed, making it hard to find. It's literally everywhere in our food and in our body care lotions, our cosmetics and shampoos, and even in some supplements and medications, really. But as humans, we don't have the enzyme to break down gluten. And because of the standard American diet's advice, most people eat it for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks. Gluten particles cause inflammation and wreak havoc on digestion. That's why we need to avoid and eliminate this hidden health assassin from our diet. And I know it's hard, and here's something that may shock you. It's meant to be hard, and here's why. About 30 years ago, scientists discovered that wheat contains a protein called gliadin that can affect the brain in a similar way to opiates. And when it's digested, gliadin breaks down into substances that attach to opiate receptors in our brains. While this doesn't produce a high as such, it does make people feel hunger and increases their appetite. And it even gets them addicted to wheat products. So, as you can see by this one example, we have all been manipulated into eating food that makes us sick. Now, as bad as gluten is, it's only one piece of the sick care cycle. There are many, many other hidden health assassins that are doing us harm, and I reveal them all in my newly published book, The Hidden Health Assassins in the Standard American Diet, Exposed for Your Protection. Once you know how all these health assassins are making and keeping you sick, you can break free from them and start to reclaim your health again. Imagine what it would be like to finally live without pain and constant discomfort. Imagine being able to enjoy physical activities and hobbies again. Wouldn't you like to travel and explore new places? Imagine keeping your independence and living where you want, for as long as you want. Imagine what it would be like to have all the energy you need to get through your day and then have some energy left over for some adult fun time. I mean, when was the last time that happened, right? And finally, imagine a future with a healthier and happier you right in the center of it. Well, you don't have to imagine anymore, because the hidden health assassins in the standard American diet will help you know how you can have all of that and more in your life starting today. And there has never been a more critical time to get your health back in order. Do you remember those shocking and scary statistics I mentioned earlier? 93.2% of all American adults are sick. 66% of Americans are overweight or obese. Over 50% of Americans are diabetic. And 47% have high blood pressure. And then this shocking statistic, again, more than 50% of men have erectile dysfunction. And sadly, for the first time in history, statistically speaking, children will not live longer than their parents. And now, non-communicable diseases, which are ones that you can't catch, have a higher mortality than infectious diseases. That's unheard of and unacceptable. I'm going to repeat that. These statistics are absolutely unacceptable. And if you're not saddened, angry, or even outraged by these statistics, you need to be. If not for yourself, but for your children and future generations that will be born into a system of sickness and die way before their time in the very same system. That outrage is what has fueled my mission to save as many lives as I can. And the best way I can do that is to share what I know with as many people as I can. That's why I wrote The Hidden Health Assassins in the Standard American Diet, Exposed for Your Protection. Inside this revealing book, I share why we are the most vulnerable generation in human history and how you can escape the fate you are being dished up. I share how to find gluten in your food, even when they try to hide it from you. When you know this, you can't ever be tricked again. I'll share the surprising everyday ingredients that often include gluten. You know, even vegetable protein products aren't safe. I'm going to share with you why you may not need to cut out all gluten from your diet, unless you have any of these 3 specific disorders, which I'll tell you in the book, and then you totally should. I'm going to share with you the worst type of wheat to eat and why you need to avoid it as though your life depends on it. Why? Because it actually does. I'll share with you the one food that instantly depletes your energy when we eat it, what it is, and the horrific effect it's having on our mortality rates. I'm going to tell you and show you how sick animals are creating food that makes us sick, and why, even if you eat meat-free, you still may not be safe. I'm going to share with you the disturbing link between the antibiotics used to produce our food and the rise in obesity and other diseases and disorders. You will learn how the standard American diet has been used to make Americans fat, dumb, and happy, and the best way to reclaim your health and even start to reverse so-called untreatable or chronic conditions, and so much more. I don't hold back because I want you to know exactly why you and your loved ones are getting sick, which is why I've made this book as affordable as I can. You can get your copy of The Hidden Health Assassins in the Standard American Diet, Exposed for Your Protection, today by hitting the button below. And you can get it for less than most people would spend on a so-called healthy meal at almost any restaurant. But unlike that not so healthy meal, you'll have the information in my groundbreaking book forever. And to reward you for taking action today, I will give you my time-optimized eating guide. It's a quick start guide, and you will notice that I haven't used the common terms intermittent fasting or time-restricted feeding, and there's a good reason for that. Why? It's because no one wants to fast. After all, it sounds like you're depriving yourself. And feeding? Well, feeding just makes it sound like you're just another animal at the trough. Besides, time-optimized eating is a bit different. It's all the good parts of intermittent fasting with none of the bad stuff. Plus, I've included my own tips and tricks to make it easier and more fun. I know how powerful time-optimized eating can be from my own personal experience and from the feedback from thousands of my clients and patients. My simple to follow, time-optimized eating guide will help you see how easy it is to do, and it gives you the best way to integrate it into your life. And as one more bonus, I'll also give you my top 10 foods to improve your gut health. When our gut is unhealthy, it means we don't absorb the nutrients from the food we eat. So our cells starve and don't get the nourishment they need to be and stay healthy. And that means we get sick. I will share with you my top 10 foods to improve your gut health. And don't worry, they're all super easy to find. And best of all, they're all very delicious. You'll get these bonuses when you purchase the hidden health assassins in the standard American diet exposed for your protection today. So why am I doing all this? Because I want you to avoid the same kind of fate that Ralph and my patients had. They deserved better, and so do you. The simple fact is, our health system is actually a sickness system that has no intention of making you healthy. So you need to know how to look after yourself, because no one's got your back except I'm trying, and that's where I come in. It's my mission to help people like you to be empowered and to reclaim your birthright, which is to be healthy. You deserve to live a healthier, happier, and more vibrant life. I know healthier people make better communities. They make better brothers, mothers, fathers, sisters, employees, neighbors, you name it. These better communities make a better world. And that's the kind of world I want to live in. Don't you? Come and join me. Click on the button below and let's get you healthy again. Give your family, your friends, and loved ones more quality time with you. They deserve it, and so do you.